So today we'll be starting with the chapter 7, third canto. Further inquiries by Vidura. Text 1. Shri Shukavacha Evam Dhruvanam Maitreyam Dvaipayana Suto Budaha Redayan Iva Bharatya Viduraha Pratyabhashata. Sukadeva Goswami said. Now, Sukadeva Goswami is speaking to Parikshit Maharaj and also relating to what Vidura Maitri Samvad was there. What was the conversation between Vidura and Maitri? So Maitri Rishi was there when Lord gave instructions to Uddhava. At that time, Maitri Rishi also was hearing. So all those things are related by now. So they was it is relating the whole thing. So, O king, while Maitri, the great sage, was thus speaking, Vidura, the learned son of Dvaipayana, expressed a request. The great son of Dvaipayana Vyasa, Vidura, he expressed a request in a pleasing manner by asking this question. So Vidura wanted to know more. So Uddhava sends Vidura to Maitri Rishi and inquire from Maitri. So this way now further inquiry is done. And but how the inquiry is there in a very pleasing way. Vidura Vacha, Brahman Katham Bhagavatash Chinmatrasya Vikarina Vedaya Chapi Yujyer Nirgunasya Gunakriyah. Viduruvacha, Vidura says, Brahman, O Brahmana, Katham, how, Bhagavata, of the personality of God, Chitmatrasya, of the complete spiritual whole, Avikarina, of the unchangeable, Leelaya, by his pastime, Leelaya, by his pastime. Chinmatra of the complete whole, Avikarana of the unchangeable, Leelaya by his pastime, Cha, either, Api, even though it is so, Yujyerana, take place, Nirgunasya, who is without the moods of nature, Gunaha, moods of nature, Kriyaha, activities. Shri Vidura said, O great Brahmana, since the Supreme Personality of Godhead is a complete spiritual whole and is unchangeable, how is he connected with the material modes of nature and their activities? If this is his pastime, how do the activities of the unchangeable take place and exhibit qualities without the modes of nature? Nice question. How is he connected? Because suspended modes, it was given the suspended energies, they all come together. Then the creation happens. Now, in the creation, how is it that he's connected with the modes of material nature? And then, if he's connected, how is he not affected? So, if you're connected to somebody, naturally you're affected. But how is it that you're connected as well as you're not affected? That is a very important question. He is connected as well as he is without, unaffected, without modes of material nature. This is the question asked. Arunadi,
Hare Krishna, chapter 7, text 1. Evam Bruvanam Maitreyam Dvaipayana Suto Buddha Prinayanniva Bharatya Vidura Pratyabhashata. Translation. Sri Sukadev Goswami said, O king, while Maitreya, the great sage, was thus speaking, Vidura, the learned son of Dvaipayana Vyasa, expressed a request in a pleasing manner by asking this question. Text 2. Vidura Uvacha ब्रह्मन् कथं भगवतश्चिन्मात्रस्या विकारिणः लीलया चापि युज्येरन् निर्गुणस्य गुणाक्रियाः. Translation. Sri Vidura said, O great Brahmana, since the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the complete spiritual whole and is unchangeable, how is he connected with the material modes of nature and their activities? If this is his pastime, how do the activities of the unchangeable take place and exhibit qualities without the modes of nature? Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. As described in the previous chapter, the difference between the super soul and the Supreme Lord and the living entities is that the activities of the Lord in creating the cosmic manifestation are performed by the Lord through the agency of his multifarious energies. But this manifestation is bewildering to the living entities. The Lord is therefore the master of the energies, whereas the living entities are subjugated by them. By asking various questions about transcendental activities, Vidura is clearing the misconception that when the Lord either descends on the earth in his incarnation or appears himself with all his potencies, he too is subjected to the influence of Maya just like an ordinary living entity. This is generally the calculation of the less intelligent philosophers who consider the position of the Lord and that of the living entities to be on the same level. Vidura is hearing the great sage Maitreya refute these arguments. The Lord is described in this verse as Chinmatra or completely spiritual. The personality of God has unlimited potencies to create and manifest many wonderful things, both temporary and permanent. Because this material world is a creation of his external energy, it thus appears to be temporary. It is manifested at certain intervals, maintained for some time, and again dissolved and conserved in his own energy. As described in Bhagavad Gita 8.19, Bhutva Bhutva Praliyate. But the creation of his internal potency, the spiritual world, is not a temporary manifestation like the material world, but is eternal and full of transcendental knowledge, opulence, energy, strength, beauties, and glories. Such manifestations of the Lord's potencies are eternal and are therefore called nirguna or free from all tinges of the modes of material nature, even up to the mode of material goodness. The spiritual world is transcendental even to material goodness and thus is unchangeable. Since the Supreme Lord of such eternal and unchangeable qualities is never subjugated by anything like material influence, how can his activities and form be conceived to be under the influence of illusory Maya, as in the case with the living entities? A juggler or magician displays many wonders with his acts and arts. He can become a cow by his magical tactics, and yet he is not that cow. But at the same time, the cow displayed by the magician is not different from him. Similarly, the material potency is not different from the Lord because it is an emanation from him. But at the same time, the manifestation of potency is not the Supreme Lord. The Lord's transcendental knowledge and potency always remain the same. They do not change even when displayed in the material world. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord descends on the earth by his own internal potency, and therefore there is no question of his becoming materially contaminated, changed, or otherwise affected by the modes of material nature. The Lord is Saguna by his own internal potency, but at the same time, he is Nirguna since he is not in touch with the material energy. The restrictions of the prison house are applicable to prisoners who are condemned by king's law, but the king is never affected by such implications, although he may visit the prison house out of his goodwill. In the Vishnu Purana, the six opulences of the Lord are stated to be non different from him. The opulences of transcendental knowledge, strength, opulence, potency, beauty, and renunciation are all identical with the personality of Godhead. When he personally displays such opulences in the material world, they have no connection with the modes of material nature. The very word chin, mat, chin matratva is the guarantee that the Lord's activities are always transcendental, even when displayed in the material world. His activities are as good as Supreme Personality Himself. Otherwise, liberated devotees like Shukdev Goswami would not have been attracted by them. Vidura inquired how the Lord's activities can be in the modes of material nature, as is sometimes miscalculated by persons with poor fund of knowledge. The inability of the material qualities is due to the difference between the material body and the spirit soul. The conditioned soul's activities are displayed through the medium of modes of material nature and are therefore perverted in the appearance. However, the Lord's body and the Lord Himself are one and the same, and when Lord's activities are displayed, they are certainly non different from the Lord in all respects. The conclusion is that persons who consider the Lord's activities material are certainly mistaken. Hare Krishna.
Hmm. So the question arises, all the activities are done. Activities are done in the modes of nature only. Creation is done, maintenance is done. Then how is it that he is not affected by the modes of nature? Because if he's doing an activity, naturally he should have modes of nature. So these two things are very important. The doing as well as doing an activity as well as not influenced by any modes. So this has been given. One second. Next. Some part is also there. Let me read from Dashni of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So this is the first question asked. How is it that a spiritual entity doing an activity like creation, and this creation is also with gunas. Creation is with gunas, rajas, sato, rajas, tamas. But then Chinmatra is avikarana. That means he is completely spiritual. He has no material gunas. He is without change. So this seems to be completely contradictory. Because it is said, material gunas, they are Shakti of Krishna. Mama Maya Duratya. Krishna says, she is my energy. If Maya is Krishna's energy, that means energy and energetic cannot be separated. Then Maya has three gunas, and Krishna also should have three gunas. Why is it that he is not having three gunas? And if he has three gunas, then he cannot be Chinmatra. Chinmatra means completely spiritual. He cannot. So these two things are coming. Because Maya is his energy, first thing. Maya cannot be separated from energetic. Maya is full of three gunas. And how is it that Krishna is not having any gunas? Material gunas. Now the question arises, why is he then Bhagavan? Gunas He doesn't have any gunas, but he has all wonderful qualities. What is that quality? When you say Bhagavan, Bhagavan means Bhaga. Bhaga means qualities. From where these qualities have come then? So these qualities are not material qualities. Because Sato, Rajo, and Tamo, they also give qualities. But Krishna's quality is completely spiritual. That is why he is Chinmatraha and he is non-changeable. All these questions have been asked. Let us see the third. क्रीडायामुद्यमोर्वस्य कामश्चिक्रीडि क्षान्यतः स्वतस्तृप्तस्य च कथं निवृतस्य सदान्यतः क्रीडया matter of playing udyamaha enthusiasm arbhasya of the boys kama desire chikridisha willingness to play anyatha with other boys swatah truptasya for one who is self-satisfied cha also katham what for nivrutasya one who is detached sada at all times anyatha boys are enthusiastic to play with other boys or with various diversions because because they are encouraged by desire. But there is no possibility of such desire for the Lord because he is self-satisfied and detached from everything at all times. If somebody can say this is Leela of Krishna, Leela means play means enthusiasm, and then play has some desires also. When you say Leela, the boys are playing. Boys like to play with other boys, and they are encouraged to play by desires. Now, if Krishna has desire, that means he is not Atmaram or Atmatriptasya. When Atmaram means he should be satisfied. Why is it that he is playing? For what purpose is he playing? He is satisfied person. Now then he should not do anything. And he should be detached from everything at all times. For what reason he is having this desire to play? Chikridisha, that is willingness to play, Kama. So what is the reason? Why has he created? For what reason is he creating? For what reason is he maintaining? And what must be the reason for the destruction also? What enthusiasm is there? Or what is the driving force behind all these things? Generally, when a person plays, he has some desire. That is why he is enthusiastic to play. Now he's not affected by the gunas also. He is unchangeable. At the same time, he has kept Maya as a Shakti. So it's completely contradictory. Well, how is it that he's self-satisfied at the same time he is creating? That is the question asked. So here, Shri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments. He starts like this: there cannot be any resolution in the contradiction when speaking of his pastimes. As well, the pastimes should not occur without some reason on the part of the Lord. An example is given. So, children, example has been given. So, the desire arises by the impetus of other children. Because the Lord is Swatastruptasya, that means Atmaram, how can Kama be the cause? And since no one exists except the Lord, Anyatha Nivrutasya, how does the desire to play arise by other influence? No one is existing before creation. Then with whom is he playing or who is inspiring him? How, how does the desire to play arise by other influence? That is the question asked. Okay. Vrindavan Lila Mataji, third verse.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you. क्रीडायामुद्यमो अर्भस्य कामश्चिकीर्षान्यतः स्वतस्तृप्तस्य च कथं निवृत्तस्य सदान्यतः. Translation: Boys are enthusiastic to play with other boys or with various diversions because they are encouraged by desire. But there is no possibility of such desire for the Lord because he is self satisfied and detached from everything at all times. Purport: Since the Supreme Personality of Godhead is one without a second, there is no possibility that anything besides Him can exist. He expands Himself by His energies in multi forms of self expansions and separated expansions as well, just as fire expands itself by heat and light. Since there is no other existence besides the Lord Himself, the Lord's association with anything manifests His association with Himself. In Bhagavad Gita 9.4, the Lord says, Maya tatam idam sarvam jagat avyaktamurtina matsthani sarva bhutani nachaham teshvavasthitaha. The complete manifestation of the cosmic situation is an expansion of the Lord Himself in His impersonal feature. All things are situated in Him only, yet He is not in them. That is the opulence of the Lord's attachment and detachment. He is attached to everything, yet He is detached from all. Hare Krishna Mataji.
He is attached as well as he is detached. Maya Tamidam Sarvam Jagadavattamurti Namasthani Sruptani Achaham with Achaham Tesha. So everything I have created at the same time, I'm not in them. Next. Asrakshe Bhagavan Vishwam Ashrakshet Bhagavan Vishwam Gunamayatma Maya Taya Sansthapayatyet Bhuyah Pratyabhidhasyati. Asrakshit cause to create Bhagavan, the personality of God, Vishwam, the universe, Gunamaya, endowed with three modes of material nature, Atma, self, Maya, by the potency, Taya, by her, Sansthapayathi, maintains, Ketan, all these, Bhuya, then again, Pratyavidasyati, conversely dissolves also. By his self-sheltered potency, three modes of material nature, the Lord has caused the creation of this universe. So self-sheltered potency. By his own potency, God has created the universe. By her, he maintains the creation. Conversely, dissolves it again and again. So, by his Atma Maya, by his potency itself, he creates. So, he does not have gunas and actions. This is known. Pratyavidhasyati means he withdraws or destroys the creation. Everything he does, he does it. At the same time, he does it. He creates this universe by Maya composed of three gunas. Maintains it by Maya and destroys also it with Maya. This is also known to everyone. At the same time, not affected. Okay. So Bindu read.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Text 4. अस्राक्षीत् भगवान् विश्वं गुणमय्यात्ममायया तया संस्थापयत् एतत् भूय प्रत्यभिधास्यति. Translation: By his self-sheltered potency of the three modes of material nature, the Lord has caused the creation of this universe. By her, he maintains the creation and conversely dissolves it again and again. Purport: This cosmic universe is created by the Lord for those living entities who are carried away by the illusory thought of becoming one with Him by imitation. The three modes of material nature
are for the further bewilderment of the conditioned souls. The conditioned living entity, bewildered by the illusionary energy, considers himself a part of the material creation due to the forgetfulness of his spiritual identity, and thus he becomes entangled in material activities life after life. The material world is not for the purpose of the Lord Himself, but it is for the conditioned souls who wanted to be controllers due to misuse of their God gifted minute independence. Thus, the conditioned souls are subjected to repeated birth and death. Hare Krishna.
Now, about Lord is over. Now, the inquiry is about Jivana. देशतः कालतो योऽसौ अवस्थातः स्वतोऽन्यतः अविलुप्तावबोधात्मा स युज्येत जया कथम् देशतः circumstantial कालतः by the influence of time यह one who असौ the living entity अवस्थातः by situation स्वतः by dream अन्यतः by others अविलुप्तः extinct avabodh consciousness atma pure soul saha he yujyeta engaged ajaya with the science katham how is it so. Translation goes, the pure soul is pure consciousness. Pure soul is pure consciousness and is never out of consciousness, either due to circumstances, time, situations, dreams, or other causes. How then does he become engaged in science? A soul is always pure. Soul is part and parcel of Krishna. If Krishna is completely spiritual, then his part also should be spiritual. Like this ocean is salty, then the drop is also salty. If Krishna is Chinmatraha, then soul is also Chinmatra. In a small quantity maybe, but the soul is always pure. The soul is always in Shuddha Sattva. Soul is completely pure. Then how is it that the soul gets engaged in this creation, in this insights, in this ignorance? How is it that the soul gets affected by the modes of material nature? If Krishna is not affected, then soul also should not be affected. Why then his part is affected? Nice question, isn't it? Nice question. Because if Krishna is not affected, then his part and parcel also should not be affected. Why is it that they are affected? Why we are all affected? By part and parcel. We are part and parcel of Krishna. If Krishna is pure, soul is also pure. Soul is pure, then why is it engaged in the science? Okay.
देशतः कालतो योऽसाव अवस्थातः श्रतोऽन्यतः अविलुप्तावबोधात्मा स युज्यताच्य कथम्. The pure soul is pure consciousness and is never out of consciousness, either due to circumstances, time, situations, dreams, or other causes. How then does he become engaged in nations? The consciousness of the living being is always present and never changes under any circumstances, as above mentioned. When a living man moves from one place to another, he is conscious that he has changed his position. He is always present in the past, present, and future, like electricity. One can remember incidents from his past and can conjecture about his future also on the basis of past experience. He never forgets his personal identity, even though he is placed in awkward circumstances. How then can the living entity become forgetful of his real identity as pure spirit soul and identify with matter unless influenced by something beyond himself? The conclusion is that the living entity is influenced by the avidya potency, as confirmed in both the Vishnu Puran and the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam. The living entity is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita 7.5 as Paraprakriti, and in the Vishnu Puran he is mentioned as the Parashakti. He is part and parcel of the Supreme Soul Supreme Lord as potency and not as the potent. The potent can exhibit many potencies, but the potency cannot equal the potent at any stage. One potency may be overcome by another potency, but to the potent, all potencies are under control. The Jiva potency or the Kshetragya Shakti of the Lord has the tendency to be overpowered by the external potency. Avidya karma samagya, and in this way, he is placed in the awkward circumstances. The living entity cannot be forgetful of his real identity unless influenced by the avidya potency. Because the living entity is prone to the influence of the avidya potency, he can never equal the supreme potent. Hare Krishna Mataji.
So how is it that his intelligence is spoiled? How, how is it that his memory is affected? Is all the question asked. How is it that he has lost his knowledge, the association of ignorance? Because Jiva is, how is it that he's bewildered by Maya? Expression, this is the question asked. The sixth one. Bhagavan eka evaisha sarva kshetreshvasthita kshetreshvasthitah amushya durbhagatvam va kleshava karmibhi kutah Bhagavan ekah. The Supreme Personality of God, ekah alone. Evaisha, evaisha. All these sarva kshetreshva vastita. All kshetreshu in the living entities avastita situated. Amushya durbhagatvam. Amushya means of the living entities. Durbhagatvam misfortune. Either klesha va karmibhi kuta. Klesha miseries va or karmibhi by activities. Kutaha what for. The Lord as a super soul situated in every living being's heart. Why then do the living entities' activities result in misfortune and misery? Lord is there one super soul. So he should guide. Why is it that a living entity is engaging his body in drinking cigarettes? Why is he doing the wrong activities? Why a living entity is suffering? Why the body is undergoing miseries, misfortune? Why? Lord is there, super soul. Nice questions. What is the work of Lord then? Why is he there then? If he is not able to guide, why is he sitting inside and watching all these things? Body is paining. Why is he giving pain to the body? That to a pure devotee like Vrindavan Mataji. Why is he giving sufferings to the body? Isn't it? You should ask this question actually. What are you doing inside? I am serving you and you are giving me pain. Actually, this is a nice question asked. Why devotees suffer sometimes? Maybe even monetary there is sufferings are there. Why? What is Lord doing inside? Sitting inside watching everything. Does he like to see the sufferings? Suffering of any living entities? Is he sitting to watch? Is a question. Is he there or not there? He is there. He is there as super soul. That is for sure. And what is he doing sitting inside? What is he doing? Nice question. First is, how is it that the living entities are put in ignorance? Next question is, what is Lord doing inside everyone's body? Okay. Gandhi Prabhu, can you read or you are in office? Or Aruna will read?
Mother traveling. Well,
Aruna read it.
Hare Krishna, text 6. Bhagavane ka evaisha sarvakshetreshvavastitah amushya durbhagatva va klesho va karma bhikutaha. The Lord as the super soul is situated in every living being's heart. Why then do the living entities' activities result in misfortune and misery? Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The next question put forward by Vidura to Maitreya is, why are the living entities subjected to so many miseries and misfortunes in spite of the Lord's presence in their hearts as super soul? The body is considered a fruitful tree, and the living entity and the Lord as super soul are like two birds seated in the tree. The individual soul is eating the fruit of the tree, but the super soul, the Lord, is witnessing the activities of the bird. A citizen of the state may be in miseries for want of sufficient supervision by the state authority, but how can it be possible that a citizen suffers from other citizens while the chief of the state is personally present? From another point of view, it is understood that the jiva, living entity, is qualitatively one with the Lord, and thus his knowledge in the pure state of life cannot be covered by nescience, especially in the presence of the Supreme Lord. How then does the living entity become subjected to ignorance and covered by the influence of Maya? The Lord is the father of and the protector of every living entity, and he is known as the Bhutabhrit, or the maintainer of the living entities. Why then should the living entity be subjected to so many sufferings and misfortunes? It should not be so, but actually, we see that it happens everywhere. The question is therefore put, followed by Vidura for solution. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Mataji, you are mute.
Yeah. It's talking about. Okay. Next comes the Lord is situated. So next, this was the question: why does the people that suffer from ignorance and lose a sense of bliss? Now seventh one. एतस्मिन् mano vidvan खिद्यते अज्ञानसङ्कटे सङ्कटे तन्नः परानुदविभो कश्मलं मानसं महत्पोल. This mass of ignorance is afflicting my mind. Oh, these doubts are afflicting my mind. O Supreme Lord, destroy the great illusion in our minds. That's what is written here. So, O great and learned one, my mind is greatly illusioned by the distress of this science, and I therefore request you to clear it up. Etasmin, in this, may mind, manaha, mind, vidvan, O learned one, khidyate is troubling, jnana, is science, sankate is in distress. That therefore, naha, my, paranga, clear up, vibho, O great one, kashmalam, illusion, manas, relating to the mind, mahat, great. Bindu read.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Text 7. एतस्मिन् मे मनो विद्वन् खिद्यते ज्ञानसङ्कटे तन्न परानुदा विभो कश्मलं मानसं महत्. Translation. O great and learned one, my mind is greatly illusioned by the distress of this nescience, and I therefore request you to clear it up. Purport. Such mental bewilderment as represented here by Vidura takes place for some living entities, but not for everyone. For if everyone were bewildered, there would be no possibility of a solution by higher personalities. Hare Krishna.
So the mind is completely in illusion. So he is asking the spiritual master That is Maitri Rishi to clear his doubts. Sukadeva Goswami is asking, is going to speak. So this all is related by, is all is told by Sukadeva Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj. Shri Shukavacha. You're able to hear?
Yes, Mataji, clear.
Yeah. Shri Shukavacha. स इत्थं चोदित शक्रा तत्त्वजिज्ञासुना मुनिः प्रत्याह भगवच्चित्तः स्मयन् इव गतस्मयः. Shri Shukavacha. Shri Shukadeva Goswami said, Saha, he, Maitreya Muni, Itham, in this way, Choditaha, being educated, Shakraha, by Vidura, Tattva Jigyasuna, by one who was anxious to inquire, to know the truth, Muni, the great sage, Pratyaha, replied, Bhagavad Chittaha, God conscious, Mayanu, wondering, Iva as if Gatas Mayaha, without hesitation. Shukadeva Goswami said, O king, Maitreya, being thus educated by the inquisitive Vidura, at first seemed astonished, but then he replied to him without hesitation, since he was fully God conscious. So powerful questions were asked. First is about Lord, about Jiva, then how is it that Lord is observing everything? So Maitreya was completely absorbed in Lord. So he was astonished, but he was answering very nice. Answered as if astonished, though he was actually without astonishment. What is there to be astonished? If one is completely God conscious, there is nothing like astonishment for him. What is given by Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Thinking of how to resolve these questions, Maitreya remembered the Lord, Bhagavad Chitta. Then he got the answer. Externally acting as if surprised, he seemed to say, oh, these are difficult doubts to resolve. However, he had actually resolved the doubts. Was his complete God conscious. Bindu, read.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Text 8. Shri Sukavacha Sa itam chodita shatra tattva jigyasan sunamunihi pratyaha bhavacha chittaha smayan iva gata smayaha. Translation. Sri Sukdev Goswami said, O King Maitreya, being thus agitated by the inquisitive Vidura, at first seemed astonished, but then he replied to him without hesitation, since he was fully God conscious. Purport. Since the great sage Maitreya was filled with God consciousness, he had no reason to be astonished at such contradictory questions by Vidura. Therefore, although as a devotee he externally expressed surprise as if he did not know how to reply to those questions, he immediately became perfectly settled and properly replied to Vidura. Yasmin vigyate sarvam evam vigyatvam bhavati. Anyone who is a devotee of the Lord knows about the Lord to some extent, and devotional service to the Lord makes him able to know everything by the grace of the Lord. Although a devotee may apparently express himself to be ignorant, he is full of knowledge in every intricate matter. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Whenever what is to be known, Krishna gives the knowledge. One doesn't have to really search or just explore to the materialistic knowledge. Not necessary. Yasmin vigyate sarvam. You know Krishna, or you should just try to know Krishna. Sarvam evam vigyatam bhavati. Sarvam Yasmin vidyate sarvam evam vidyatam bhavati. Very easy to know, or whenever whatever is required, Krishna gives that knowledge. Evam vidyatam bhavati. So we don't have to explore so much about what is materialistic knowledge, or we don't have to even repent that I don't have any materialistic knowledge, because devotee does not watch any TV, doesn't read newspaper. Naturally, he doesn't know also many of the things. Not necessary also. Once I asked this question to my Shiksha Guru, he gave this answer. Yasmin vigyate sarvam evam vigyatam. Whenever whatever is required, people will get the knowledge. Because I said I don't read paper, I don't see anything. How is it that I'm going to get any knowledge? He said not required. Not required. Just have to have the knowledge of Krishna. Then naturally, whenever whatever is required, Krishna gives the knowledge. And it's an experience also. Whenever it is required, he gives the knowledge. Whatever required. Whenever whatever required. Last verse. Maitri vacha seyam bhagavato maya yannayena viruddhyate ईश्वरस्य विमुक्तस्य कार्पण्यामुत बन्धनम्. Maitreya said, Sa iyam, such a statement, Bhagavata, of the personality of God. Maya illusion, yet that which, layena, by logic, nyaya is logic, viruddhyate becomes contradictory, Ishwarasya, the supreme personality of God, vimuktasya, of the liberated, ever liberated, Karpanyam, insufficiency, that also what to speak of, bandhan, bondage. Sri Maitreya said, certain conditioned souls put forward the theory that the Supreme Brahman, or the personality of God, is overcome by illusion or Maya. At the same time, they maintain that he is unconditioned. So this is against all logic. Sometimes they say, at the same time, they say he's unconditioned. Sometimes they say he's put in illusion. Now he's staying in this body, isn't it? How is it that the soul is affected by modes of material nature? He's not affected. Sometimes they say he's overcome by illusion, and sometimes they say he's unconditioned. So this is against all logic. So when Vigura inquired for the absolute truth, asked Maitreya these questions, Maitreya became absorbed in the Lord and answered as he is astonished. Now Maitreya is answering this Maya, which cannot be understood by logic and which belongs to the Supreme Lord, but not to his Swarupa, is a cause of deprivation and ignorance. For the Jiva who has possibility of realizing the form, knowledge and bliss of the Lord. So Maya cannot be understood by our logic. It belongs to Krishna. It belongs to him, but not to his Swarupa. That not to his Swarupa, but it belongs to him. And if one thinks like this, again, that is the ignorance. I will not just say, Maya cannot be understood by logic, and which belongs to the Lord, but not to his Swarupa. This is the cause of the ignorance of the soul. Who has possibility of realizing the form, knowledge, and bliss of the Lord? So Sachidananda Swarupa is Krishna's Swarupa. Sachidananda is Krishna's Swarupa. Maya is his energy. Not thinking that Maya is not belonging to, thinking that Swarupa of Krishna and Krishna are different. Again, this is ignorance. So such type of logics cannot be put. Okay. Here also big perfect is there. Okay. Kundanjira Mataji, you read the perfect. Till that time I'll just read the essence of this perfect. Read the perfect.
It's not the shloka, Mataji, not the verse. Maitreya Uvacha Seyam Bhagavato Maya Yannayena Viruddhyate ईश्वरस्य विमुक्तस्य कार्पण्यम उत बंधनम. Sri Maitreya said certain conditioned souls put forward the theory that all the personality of Godhead is overcome by illusion or Maya, and at the same time they maintain that he is unconditioned. This is against all logic. Purport. Sometimes it appears that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is 100% spiritual, cannot be the cause of the illusory potency which covers the knowledge of the individual soul. But factually, there's no doubt that the illusory external energy is also part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. When Vyasadeva realized the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he saw the Lord along with his external potency, which covers the pure knowledge of the individual living entities. Why the external energy acts in this way may be considered as follows, as analyzed by great commentators like Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Srila Jiva Goswami. Although the material, illusory energy is distinct from the spiritual energy, it is one of the many energies of the Lord, and thus the material modes of nature, the mode of goodness, etc., are surely qualities of the Lord. The energy and the energetic personality of Godhead are not different, and although such energy is one with the Lord, he is never overpowered by it. Although the living entities are also parts and parcels of the Lord, they are overcome by the material energy. The inconceivable Yogam Aishwaram of the Lord, as mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita 9.5, is misunderstood by the froggish philosophers. In order to support a theory that Narayan, the Lord himself, becomes a Daridra Narayan, a poor man, they propose that the material energy overcomes the Supreme Lord. Srila Jiva Goswami and Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, however, offer a very nice example in explanation. They say that although the sun is all light, the clouds, darkness, and snowfall are all part and parcel of the sun. Without the sun, there is no possibility of the sky being overcast with clouds or darkness, nor can there be snowfall on the earth. Although life is sustained by the sun, life is also disturbed by darkness and snowfall produced by the sun. But it is also a fact that the sun itself is never overcome by darkness, clouds, or snowfall. The sun is far, far away from such disturbance. Only those who have a poor fund of knowledge say that the sun is covered by cloud or by darkness. Similarly, the Supreme Brahman or the Parabrahman, the personality of Godhead, is always unaffected by the influence of the material energy, although it is one of his energies. Parasya Shaktir Vividhaya Shruyate. There's no reason to assert that the Supreme Brahman is overpowered by the illusory energy. The clouds, darkness, and snowfall can cover only an insignificant portion of the sun's rays. Similarly, the modes of material nature may react upon the ray like living entities. It is the misfortune of the living entity, certainly not without reason, that the influence of the material energy acts on his pure consciousness and eternal bliss. This covering up of pure consciousness and eternal bliss is due to avidya karma samagya, the energy which acts on the infinitesimal living entities who misuse their minute independence. According to Vishnu Puran, Bhagavad Gita, and all other Vedic literatures, the living entities are generated from the Tatastha energy of the Lord, and thus they are always the energy of the Lord and are not the energetic. The living entities are like the sun's rays, although, as explained above, there is no qualitative difference between the sun and its rays. The sun's rays are sometimes overpowered by another energy of the sun, namely by clouds or by snowfall. Similarly, although the living entities are qualitatively one with the superior energy of the Lord, they have the tendency to be overpowered by the inferior material energy. In the Vedic hymns, it is said that the living entities are like the sparks of a fire. The sparks of fire also are fire, but the burning potency of the sparks is different from that of the original fire. When the sparks fly out of touch with the original fire, they come under the influence of a non fiery atmosphere. Thus, they maintain the potency to be again with the fire as sparks, but not as the original fire. The sparks can everlastingly remain within the original fire as its parts and parcels. But the moment the sparks become separated from the original fire, their misfortunes and miseries begin. The clear conclusion is that the Supreme Lord, who is the original fire, is never overpowered. but the infinitesimal sparks of the fire can become overpowered by the illusory effect of Maya. It is most ludicrous argument to say that the Supreme Lord is overpowered by his own material energy. The Lord is the master of the material energy, but the living entities are in the conditioned state, controlled by the material energy. That is a version of Bhagavad Gita. The froggish philosophers who put forward the argument that the Supreme Lord is overpowered by the material mode of goodness are themselves illusioned by the same material energy, although they think of themselves as liberated souls. They support their arguments by a false and laborious jugglery of words, which is a gift of the same illusory energy of the Lord. But the poor, froggish philosophers, due to a false sense of knowledge, cannot understand the situation. In the sixth canto, ninth chapter, 34th verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated, Durvabodhaiva tavayam vihara yoga yad ashrano sharira idam anvekshitasmat samavaya yad ashrano sharira idam anvekshitasmat samavaya atmanaivaika vikriyamanena sagudam agunah srijasi pasi harasi. Thus, the demigods prayed to the Supreme Lord that although his activities are very difficult to understand, they can still be understood to some extent by those who sincerely engage with the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The demigods admitted that although the Lord is apart from the material influence of creation, he nevertheless creates, maintains, and annihilates the complete cosmic manifestation of the agency of the demigods. Hare Krishna Master.
Don't you hear this song? And now in the commentary, let us see what Srila Vishwanath Thakur writes. Maya belongs to Krishna. That is for sure. Maya cannot be known by logic. There is a game given. So even this energy is spiritual. Belongs, no? So this energy is also spiritual. There is a Mama Maya. This energy, being Achit by nature, belongs to the Lord who is Chit. So this energy also should be spiritual. No? How can the energy be Achit? That is a question. How to understand now? Chit is Krishna, Achit is Maya. Sato, Gun, everything, the gunas such as Sattva, they all belong to the Lord. But then, why is it that Lord is without these gunas? Now, similarly, the sun, though pure light, possesses clouds, darkness, snow, which are unfavorable to the light or fire. That is the like water arises from the sun, enters the sun. Animals and plants arise from the earth, enter the earth. The world made of gunas arises from the Lord, enters him. Something has been given here. The clouds, darkness, light appear and disappear in the sky in succession. Energies, rajas, tamas, sato, appear, disappear in the Lord. So now again there is another thing put. Although the consciousness of the Lord, who is supreme one without a second, is never affected by material distress, by the reaction of material work, the constant flow of natures and modes, ordinary persons nonetheless think the Lord is covered by his own creation of prana and other material elements. Just as one may think that the sun is covered by clouds, snow, or an eclipse. Sun is never covered. Our eyes are covered. So this is all beyond logic, beyond explanation. The action of creating the universe takes place by Maya, energy of the Lord, whereas Lord is without change in his Sarupa. Because of non-difference between the possessor of Shakti and the Shakti, it can be said Lord creates the universe. Possessor of Shakti is Krishna. Shakti is creating the universe. That means Krishna is creating the universe. Prakriti is material cause. Purusha is fundamental cause. Time, the indirect cause, is the agitator of Prakriti. I am all three. Krishna says, I am Prakriti also, Purusha also, time also. Everything is Krishna. So doubts concerning the Lord has been resolved. What is it? What is it? What was the doubt? Why, how Krishna is the possessor? How, though being the possessor of Shakti, how is it not he is? How is it that he is not affected? Krishna says, I am only the Prakriti, I am only Purusha. I am everything. I am all three, Krishna says. So in one of the paragraph here it has been given, you have asked how the Jiva loses knowledge because of Maya. If it is true that there is actual destruction of knowledge by Maya, then Maya, the Lord's energy, should be punished by the Lord. If she is destroying everyone's knowledge. But this is not the case. One may forget that one has a jewel locket hanging over one's chest and lament that he has lost the jewel. Or perhaps it is like this: I get accused of theft by mistake, though it is not my fault, and get punished by the state officials. Because of Jiva's association with beginner's ignorance, the Jiva forgets his knowledge and bliss, identifies the matter, identifies the bodily qualities, and thus becomes Durbhagavatam, Durbhagavatam, Durbhagatvam. If he suffers Durbhagatvam, whose fault is that? Losing his power by the association of ignorance, he wanders around like a man with a bad wife. Because the Jiva has possibility of some small amount of power, he is called Ishvara in the verse. Now, fifth was Lord is situated as Paramatma. Then why is it that the soul is associated with ignorance? Maya is only the bewildering potency of the Lord. If he did not have the power to bewilder, there would be no question asked, since no one would be bewildered. This is because it is contrary by its behavior, Nitya Viruddha. So that is how there is a mistake in thinking Paramatma is bewildered. Paramatma is not bewildered, Jiva is bewildered. The one Paramatma of pure consciousness cannot be bewildered by Maya. But the Jiva always is. It is proper to say Paramatma is never bewildered. Who can simultaneously be bewildered and unbewildered by his own Maya? Whoever asks such questions or concludes this by extreme imagination is bewildered by Maya. Okay. So Paramatma and Jivatma, they are like sun and the sun's rays. They have same qualities, but they are different. One is conscious, other is conscious particle. This is correct conclusion. Reflection and light rays arise from sun and are particles similar to the sun. They are not distinguished from the sun and are also distinguished from the sun. Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. Similarly, though Maya Shakti, Jiva Shakti arise from the Lord and are without beginning, are not separate from the Lord. By Swarupa, they are different from the Lord. So their Swarupa is different. They belong to Lord, but their Swarupa is different. Like sun rays and the reflection that has been compared. Okay. Inferior energy, marginal energy, and internal energy. So here we'll stop. Meet on Thursday. ठीक है? पंचकल्प वैश्य कृपा सिंधु पतितनं पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो शरण की जय श्री प्रभुपाद।